Behind the back grabs, in front of the body grabs. Now we're going to move into the final section of the yellow belt test, which is strikes. The first strike is called munetsuki. Mune, again, is mid-level, ski being strike. So munetsuki, kotegaeshi is the technique. As he goes into strike, he has to make sure that he punches me in the stomach. One of my worst pet peeves is when people punch out here. I don't care if he punches out here. If he does that all day long, all he's doing is fanning me. It's making me cool off. So he has to punch like he's going to make me see my lunch. As he does that, I do my ten-kan motion that we talked about in the very beginning, this turning motion. So as he strikes, I ten-kan, control this wrist, and bring him back around. Principle of the dynamic reversal. It's a bad spot to turn someone right around into this because you're giving him momentum to strike you with. If you'll watch his other hand, boom, he could really clean your clock from here. So you have to maintain control of this wrist from the very beginning. 1, 2. From here, kotegaeshi, like I talked before, is not a wrist lock out to the side like this. A lot of styles like Aikido, you'll see a big, huge wrist lock, which gives him a really pretty fall. It looks very impressive on camera. But in reality, it gives him a lot of opportunity to punch or to just knock my hands off and put me in kotegaeshi myself. So instead, we keep our kotegaeshis very small. And you'll see from the next one, I control the entire body with this. You'll also see I move right into the pin that I discussed before, extending the shoulder into the ground, maintaining control. I've got my entire workspace laid out before me. I used to do this technique to pin to the outside, but if he starts to move away, it's too easy for me to lose that. So from here, I've got him pinned here, and if he starts to get away, I can transition into a strike, to a head grab, to a knee drop. Anything that I need is right here at my feet. Control the arm, step away. Ushiro kubushimi, any type of choke from behind. In the basics, this is how we get into this. Ushiro kubitori, one hand held, kubushimi. And in the beginning, Uke doesn't really grab very hard. You can hear my voice isn't changing, so he's not really applying the choke. This is how you want to start this, nice and easy. Notice how he's already got my balance. I don't want that. Shift forward and bring this hand around in front. Okay? As soon as you feel that arm come around your head, boom, immediately sink and bring this hand around. Notice the position of the hand. As soon as I do this, it puts me in position to put him in Sankyo. That's the easiest technique from here, and that's what we're going to cover. He goes to grab, boom. I grab Sankyo, and I back out from underneath this. Here, back down to the takedown, which should look vaguely familiar now. Once you've covered the basics, then we step it up a little bit. Now when he grabs, he puts this choke on a little bit more, and you'll start to notice my voice starts to change. He should be squeezing more. So I shouldn't be talking clear now either. That's exactly what I want. He should also focus on pulling me backwards slightly. Again, he's not trying to choke the life out of you yet, but he is putting it on you and making you uncomfortable. The Sankyo technique makes it darn near impossible for him to hold this choke on, even if he's got it really tight. Now I'm going to let him really choke me, and you'll see my face turn red. I'll give it a couple beats, and then I'll do the technique. Here. Just like that. One more time. Okay, really choke me out here. Ready? Just like that. Very difficult for him to maintain that choke. Now notice, I'm not doing any other motion. I'm not doing anything else except just the Sankyo technique. All right, defending a kick. I get a lot of questions from people. Well, how you deal with punches and punches and grabs, but what about a kick? Well, a kick is the same thing as a punch, only it's done with the legs and a little faster sometimes, or maybe a little slower depending upon the kicker. The idea is that to defend a kick, don't get kicked. Avoid the attack first. How you avoid the attack is very important, but the main thing is, number one, avoid the attack. I'm going to show you a couple different ways that I like to do things that might be a little different than what you've seen before. When I get ready to defend a kick, a front snap kick, when it comes at me, bam, I don't want to be in front of it, but I don't want to step to the side because that gives him an opportunity to follow up with a counter strike. If at all possible, I want it to be his turn, my turn, no more turns. What I will do is change the line of attack. He's not kicking to the side. He's not just kicking over here because he's not just kicking over here because I won't let him. If he's kicking me, he's got to kick straight at me. If I don't get out of the way, I get hit. I will actually control the line here and change it by redirecting his leg. Guys, this isn't a block. You cannot block someone's leg with the small bone of your arm. You're not chopping down and kicking and blocking that kick. There's no way. It's a redirection here. From this direction, let's do it just like this. I control it just like that. Staying in front of the kick, but controlling the line. The other thing is make sure you don't drop your other hand here because you're just asking for it. Keep both hands up. One hand up, one hand down. Here we go again. Just into Sayonagi, into this Kubishimi choke. I really like this. You can come here, switch, and then drop them. Simply just pass it to the side. 1, 2. If you don't feel like dropping them, again, take the thumb down, break their posture, make sure you maintain this, control this arm, and then drop them. Sayonagi to the Kubishimi. Here. Another way you can do this, it's not from Sayonagi, but it's an Iriminagi choke, is to come into this way. Instead of finishing the Iriminagi technique, step in, plant, grab just like that. Grab that hand and put the crank on their neck. From this direction, 1, 2, 3. Very painful. If you've got multiple attackers, this may not be the best choice. As he comes to grab, parry to the side. You've got your strikes, you've got your strikes. One of the things I like to do from here is from here, boom, hit them like this, then get their head up and choke them. Remember I talked about the Manetsky. One of the points is that liver 14 point right down from the nipple on the rib cage. That's what I'm going to strike into. Here, boom, strike like this, then take him over. There are 2 techniques from Katate Tori Hantai. Ikkyo is the first control, you saw me do that. The second one is Nikkyo. Ikkyo is the first control, Nikkyo is the second control. From Katate Tori Hantai, very important. The first thing I do is slightly just put my hand on his. I don't grab it because then that tells his mind that I'm fighting him and he goes into defensive mode himself. Instead, I just touch it. I step offline myself. I don't want to get punched in the face, bam. So instead, I come over here. Now the way I do Nikkyo is as I step up, I see a lot of people do it like this or like this. I follow the curve of the arm right here, keep my fingers very low to the arm, come over and relax and into his body. A mistake that's made is people get to this point and they grab the wrist and try to push him down. And if he's stronger than they are, this will never work. Worse, it puts him in a position to counter this by putting his own hand and putting me into Nikkyo. So instead, I stay relaxed and imagine there's like a 200-pound weight attached to my finger and it just drops down just like this. Sidestep, control the hand, drop down. There are 2 ways to do this also. Well, probably more than 2 ways, but 2 ways I'm going to discuss. I can bring the energy back into my center, watch his body right here. If I want, I can come over and do something to him from here. That's not on the test criteria though. Just like this. Or I can extend into him. From here, that moves him away from me. For this technique, I like to bring him in close to me because now I'm going to do the Ikkyo move, drop down from here, and then pin. And I'll go into the pin in detail in the next section. Ukenagashi means motion deflect or collapsing deflection. I learned this several years ago from a guy named Larry Reynoso of the Makoto Aikido Kyokai. Very, very good martial arts instructor, very powerful. He does the Ukenagashi like no one I've ever seen before. The idea of Ukenagashi is learning to control the line by how you deflect the person coming in. It's an arm deflection. Therefore, I'm deflecting the arm as the person comes towards me. Rather than get off line, I control the line and make him get off my line. Slowly, if he just puts his hands out, The idea behind this is that my hand will come up. I use the back of my forearm to touch. I don't use the edge of my forearm because I don't want to hurt that bone. From here, I bring my elbow up and change his angle of attack. If you can see here, his angle of attack is straight towards me. Boom. Let's do it this way. Angle of attack is straight towards me. Here, with ukenagashi, I redirect him as he goes by me. There's two ways to do ukenagashi. One was with tenkan, and the other is with irimi, here. I'm going to show ukenagashi tenkan. As he comes at me, my hand comes out. I use the momentum to redirect him as I turn. Slow again. Here, here, here. This is where I end up, side by side with him to control his angle of attack. I've avoided the attack. Now I control the situation and I can choose my option. Continuous motion. After learning how to do tenkan and learn how to turn, it's very important to understand the use of your hips in Aikido. Everything that we do is based on hip motion. Everything moves from your center, not from your shoulders, not from your arms, not from your legs. Everything moves from your center. Everything moves in conjunction. Mind and body coordination, although that sounds kind of fancy, all it means is staying relaxed and moving from your center. Funakogi Undo is one of the goofiest looking exercises I think we do in Aikido. When I first started Aikido, I didn't really care for this one because it quite honestly looks goofy. You wouldn't want to do this in a public place. Don't do it on the dance floor. With my right foot forward, my hands are going to be at my hips. My hips come forward, not so far that I can't see my toe. If I bend so far forward that I can't see my toe beneath my knee, then I'm off balance and I'm overextended. So my hips come forward, my hands shoot out right in front of me. My hips go back, the hands come straight down. Mistakes that I see, number one, are going too far forward. Number two, when you pull your hips back, sometimes I see people keep their hands on the same level. They don't dip down, they stay on the same horizontal path. And this looks more like you're pulling than digging. Your hands should come out, dig down, back up and down. So it looks like this. With a count, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Another mistake I see is people doing the hula dance. This is one of my pet peeves. I can't stand this. We're not hula dancers. The hands don't come back and forth like this. They come out in this manner, just like this, boom, and they stay that way. With a partner, everything we do in Aikido is based off our hip motion. So the best way to see this one is from a grab. I can parry him. I get behind him. From here, I use my hips. I pull him straight back. He just goes backwards. Instead, I want to connect with my hips and drop down. One more time in motion. So from here, 1, 2. That's a really good example of how you use your hips in motion. Tenkan Undo, Funakogi Undo, and Sayu Undo. The fourth one we're going to take a look at is called Shomenuchi Ikkyo Undo. It's kind of a long name, and basically it means an exercise to deal with an overhead strike. The way I do this is slightly different from what I've seen in the past. Again, we take a stance, right foot forward. On the count of 1, like on Funakogi, the hips come forward. My hands come up and out, and they form a wedge, just like this if you'll see in the camera. Where does this hand go? It can go anywhere from the mid-forearm to the elbow, just like this. You'll notice it's important that you have your thumb tucked down. Don't have your thumb extended like this. It's a good way to get your thumb broken. And likewise, don't have it out here because you'll get your thumb broken. Don't do that. From here, it's up, just like this on the count of 1. On the count of 2, the hands come down, the hips move back. It's hips, hands, hands, hips. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. To the side. 1, 2, 3, 4. With a partner. What I like about this is that, scoot over this way, as they come to grab both hands, this just cuts and goes right into ikkyo, just like this. This reminds you that you're going right for the elbow. As they come in, I've extended, I control the center line, he's off the center line, and I control his elbow, and then I take him down in ikkyo. From shomen, it's the same thing. The hands come up, and I redirect, opening the door and closing it. Alright, the second wrist stretch is called nikyo. Nikyo means second control. Ni, the Japanese word for two, is ni, kyo is control. Basically what you do is I put my right foot forward, my right hand out, my thumb down, and my fingers stretched out away from me. I put my other hand on the same exact way. There are two ways that this wrist stretch is done that I've seen. One is to hold your own hand like this, but the way I was taught and the way I do this, I just match my fingers up, bring the wrist into your chest, and your elbow around forward. A mistake I see a lot is people have their elbow up too high. You want to learn to relax. Just like in Kodogaeshi, when I relaxed and sunk down to my center, in Nikyo Undo, you relax and move from your center also. My knees are slightly bent, my whole body is relaxed, and the only tension is through this tendon right here. To stretch this, I bring the wrist out, my elbow back, bringing this around forward. Just like this. It's almost like an elbow strike, only you're doing it with a stretch. I do that a few times, and then do the left side. Get a good stretch, and then the blood and everything will be flowing through the muscles and the tendons. To demonstrate this, Nikyo is done just like this. I bend the wrist. At this point, you want the arm to be in a nice gentle curve. You don't want it to be straight and locked out. From here, what I'll do is I'll put the wrist against, or his fingers against my chest, and I'll bring the arm down just like that. That's a good way to do Nikyo. From here, take a slight bow, move from your center again, staying relaxed, just like this. Other side, nice gentle stretch. Again, I picked this up from Larry Reynosa, the Makoto Aikido Kyokai. He doesn't necessarily call it this. I call it this to remind myself. It's called T-Katana Tenkan. T-Katana is T, katana, T is hand, katana of course is blade. So T-Katana is hand blade. With the Tenkan, it's telling me to cut the arm out of the way as I turn. Where Ukanagashi was a deflecting motion here, T-Katana is a cutting motion here. Real slow, just put your hands out. I will cut from here, cut the person, and let them go past me this way. Tenkan is as I cut, I turn with it. Notice that I always keep this other hand up. I just don't want to do this in case something goes wrong. He stops in the middle of his attack and punches me in the face. I don't like to be punched in the face. I'm way too pretty for that. So I come around here just like this. Plus, as you can see as it goes by slowly, this gives me a great opportunity to strike with an atemi right there. Faster. Hey. In Aikido, one of my main philosophies, like I told you, was avoid, control, and choose. But I like to always assume multiple attackers. If I can deal with one attacker, that's one thing. But I want to step it up and deal with multiple attackers. And here's where you really start to see the use of all the arm deflections. Ukanagashi Tenkan, Ukanagashi Irimi, T-Katana Tenkan, T-Katana Irimi. So now, as they both come towards me, like this, I can cut one of them out of the way, move, and as they come back, I can deflect. Here they come, here they come. You'll see me cutting the arms, Ukanagashi here, Tenkan there, T-Katana here, T-Katana here, T-Katana, Ukanagashi here. Always moving, always cutting them out of the way. Keep going. Here. Okay, one of the first things that we always cover with beginners is, of course, how to do the stretches. The stretches are important for several reasons. Number one, to learn to limber up your wrists so you don't get injuries. But number two, to learn how to actually apply the technique, to know how it feels to do it to someone else because you're doing it to yourself. and learn a good principle, solid foundation for applying the technique. The first technique that I'll show you, the first hand undo, we call it a wrist stretch or a hand undo, is kotegaeshi. Basically, you hold your hand in front of you just like this, your palm facing towards you. Reach around and put your fingers around the fat part of your thumb. Put your thumb underneath your pinky. You twist it so the blade of your hand is in. Bring it to your chest. Relax your body, especially your shoulders, and then stretch it down towards your belly button. And then hold it there where you get a good stretch. This is kotegaeshi undo. Always pick a stance, and I put whatever foot forward that I'm doing, the wrist that I'm stretching. So since I'm doing my right wrist, I'm stretching the right wrist, I'm putting my right foot forward. Just like this. Once that's stretched, I'll stretch it down, up and down a few times, and then I switch to the other hand. Just like this. Now let me show you an application for that. The idea is that kotegaeshi is a wrist lock, an outward wrist lock. I lock it here by locking the bones and the muscles and the tendon in the wrist. You can already see the way it's put the torque on his body. From here, we stretch it down and take the person down. Again, kotegaeshi, here, here. In Aikido, one of my main philosophies, like I told you, was avoid, control, and choose. But I like to always assume multiple attackers. If I can deal with one attacker, that's one thing. But I want to step it up and deal with multiple attackers. And here's where you really start to see the use of all the arm deflections. Ukanagashi tenkan, ukanagashi irimi, tigatana tenkan, tigatana irimi. So now, as they both come towards me, like this, I can cut one of them out of the way, move, and as they come back, I can deflect. Here they come, here they come. You'll see me cutting the arms, ukanagashi here, tenkan there, tigatana here, tigatana here, tigatana, ukanagashi here. Always moving, always cutting them out of the way. Keep going. Here. Now the two ways that we move in Aikido are tenkan, turning, which we've talked about a little bit, and irimi, which is entering. The actual translation is to enter without fear, meaning that you accept whatever consequences are and you act. You don't second guess yourself, you don't hesitate. The tigatana tenkan that I showed was cutting the arm out of the way as I turn. Similar to ukanagashi, but different in that I'm not collapsing, I'm just cutting and moving. Now, tigatana irimi is where I'm going to enter and move past him for whatever reason. Instead of doing the turn, now as he comes towards me, I cut him off the line as I move through, straight on through. Again, just like this. I'll keep the other hand down so you can see what I'm doing. Just like this. Other side. Something that's very important on this is that you move your body too. Don't be rigid, because if you're rigid, you'll do this. Boom! And he's going to run right into you. Even if I cut him out of the way, his shoulder will catch my shoulder on the way by. So I want to make sure that I turn my body just like this. So as he goes past me, he just slips right on through. Imagine holding a big piece of a sheet of plywood up. If he goes to push me, boom, it rocks me back. If I put a nice coat of wax on it, turn it to the side, he just slips right high. And that's how I do this. Now the two ways that we move in Aikido are tenkan, turning, which we've talked about a little bit, and irimi, which is entering. The actual translation is to enter without fear, meaning that you accept whatever consequences are and you act. You don't second guess yourself, you don't hesitate. The tigatana tenkan that I showed was cutting the arm out of the way as I turn. Similar to ukanagashi, but different in that I'm not collapsing, I'm just cutting and moving. Now, tigatana irimi is where I'm going to enter and move past him for whatever reason. Instead of doing the turn, now as he comes towards me, I cut him off the line as I move through, straight on through. Again, just like this. I'll keep the other hand down so you can see what I'm doing. Just like this. Other side. Something that's very important on this is that you move your body too. Don't be rigid, because if you're rigid, you'll do this. Boom! And he's going to run right into you. Even if I cut him out of the way, his shoulder will catch my shoulder on the way by. So I want to make sure that I turn my body just like this. So as he goes past me, he just slips right on through. Imagine holding a big piece of a sheet of plywood up. If he goes to push me, boom, it rocks me back. If I put a nice coat of wax on it, turn it to the side, he just slips right high. And that's how I do this. With Ukenagashi Tenkan, it's very important that you relax your arm to let your hand be able to come over just like this. If your arm is tense, you're never going to get this. You have to stay relaxed to give yourself the flexibility to move around this person's arm. If he strikes overhead, just like this. Now, we're going to talk about a different style of Ukenagashi, which is going to be a straight up deflection. So as he comes in from a shomen strike, I want to cut him off just like this. Again, you can see right where that strike goes. There's a nice atemi right on this technique. Slowly, as you can see from here, as that strike comes in, I move him off my line once more. Putting him in position for any number of techniques. Here, irimi. Here, kotegashi, hijitoshi. Any number of techniques can be done with this. The idea is that you have your arm relaxed, but full of energy. It's not rigid and locked because you'll hurt yourself that way. Plus, if he strikes and my arm's rigid, he's going to knock me backwards. So instead, I move from my center. Stay relaxed. Have confidence in what you're doing. As that strike comes down, boom, right here, I don't want to have that. Here. One other thing I'll do to help with this, sometimes people don't really want to commit to their strike, and so they stop about right here. If he really wants to take my head off, strike to the side, please, so you don't kill me. That's how he strikes. So he'll have the follow-through. Just like that. So slowly, if you have the trouble of hanging up on someone's arm, I pass it right here. I'll pat their elbow down, just like that. One more time, up and down. One more time, just like this. We've discussed the wrist stretches. Now I'm going to show you some principles of motion that I like to practice in my Aikido. And this is what I teach all the basics, all the beginners. Everybody works on this from the white belt all the way up to the 3rd, 4th, 5th degree black belt. What I will do is, this is called Tenkan Undo, and Tenkan means to turn. I'll start with my left foot forward and my right hand out. Opposite hand and foot. I've already turned my wrist so it's got a nice gentle curve. It's not out straight, it's not locked, it's not anything like this. It's got a nice gentle curve just like this, about belt height. What I want to do now is take a step underneath this hand, and since my hand is turning this way, turn and face it. Just like this. And I do this with a count. 1, 2. 1, 2. The other thing I will do is as I do this, this hand comes up for protection. I don't want to just leave my face exposed ever. So as I do this, this hand comes up for protection, then I switch here. A good illustration of the Tenkan Undo, come over this way, katate yosa. So from here, what I'm going to do, opposite hand and foot, step underneath it, and turn. My uke will come around beside me to complete this drill. Keep my hand up in case he tries to grab me or strike me or do anything else. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've looked at Ikkyo now, first control. Now we'll switch right into Nikkyo, second control. As they go to grab, much of the motions are the same. The one thing I tell my students is that Ikkyo is a big circle, Nikkyo is a much smaller circle. I will do this slightly different depending upon the person's size of their wrist, and I'll probably do it a little bit differently than some Aikido schools. As I do this, as I step off line, because I don't want to be in the same line of attack, I grab her hand, or I put my hand on hers, and this time I actually do catch the wrist in my little wrist catcher here. As I do this, I close this hand, and put the torque on Nikkyo. Remember, the reason you're doing Nikkyo, or the way you do Nikkyo, is simply isolate the bones of the wrist just like this. You see how this hand is going up and this one's going down? And that puts the wrist lock on them. 1, 2. 1, 2. If they're a slightly larger person and I can't get my hand around their wrist, I'll come up, over, same way we did on Katate Tori Hantai this way, only now I'll do it with the same wrist, in and down. Switching right into the pin, here. One, two, three, four, pin. Maintain control of them. Don't just get up at this point because they'll get up and attack you again. Maintain control here. I really can't say enough about this next technique. It's a foundation technique, it's a beginning level technique, but the principles you learn through Katate Tori Hantai Ikkyo are going to take you for the rest of your life. If you study Aikido for the rest of your life, you'll still be learning things about this when you're 60, 70 years old. It's a very powerful technique. It's a very frustrating technique because if you don't do it correctly, it doesn't work worth a darn. You have to make sure that you do this technique correctly. Katate Tori Hantai, katate is wrist, tori is grab, hantai is cross or opposite. What I want to do from here is as soon as the person grabs me, I talked about you don't want to go straight into their power, so I come around his power like this, using my hips to move him. Even if he grabs tight and is strong, I can still move around him just like this. I may not be able to lift my arm up, but I can use my whole body to get this up. Chances are no one's ever going to attack like this. I don't like to learn to deal with the technique from a very strong grab because I don't think that he should have ever got here in the first place. So from here, it's one, just like this. The hand comes at the face, just like I was going to smack him and then punch him. Instead, the hand is in the way. The hand comes at his face, and then I take the elbow through his face as I step through and take him down. Other side. One, two. You'll also notice how I use my whole body to enter with this. I don't just kind of push and then step, or step and then push. Everything is extended on me through here. Tongue. We've dealt with one frontal attack, Ryototori Shihonagi. Now we move into Ryototori Tenshinagi. By the way, the Shihonagi actually means four-directional throw, and Tenshinagi means heaven and earth throw. So, as my partner goes to grab, from static, the idea is that I don't want to deal with his energy straight here. This is where he's strong. If he pushes, he moves me. If he pulls, he moves me. What I want to do is split his energy, one up and one down, hence the heaven and earth throw. The hand that cuts down, that's the side that I step to. Don't step this way because then you're going to get kicked in the groin. This way. This hand comes straight up, almost like you're going to pop him in the chin. And the only reason you don't hit him in the chin is because this hand pulls him down out of the way. This way, please. One, step, two. This is the position that I end in. Good forward extension. One, two. In the other direction, split the energy, one up, one down. Some mistakes on this technique are people will get up in here and they'll try to push the uke, or they'll come here and try to hit him and try to knock him down this way. You don't even have to touch your uke. From here, it's just over and down. Extension up here and down. This is it. Go ahead.